Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Classics with Courtney. And since this week marked Hitchcock's birthday, I thought, what better movie to talk about than one of his greatest achievements yet, Vertigo. Released in 1958, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, starring Jimmy Stewart, Kim Novak, Barbara Bel Geddes, and Tom Helmore. The plot is an ex-police officer who suffers from an intense fear of heights after witnessing the death of a colleague is hired by an old college acquaintance, Gavin Elster, to follow his wife, Madeline, as he believes she is possessed by an old relative who may want her dead. This is one of those movies that I had to rewatch in order to appreciate the whole aspect of the film. The first time I saw it, I actually thought it was quite boring. I couldn't get into it. There was a lot of things in it that angered me at the time, which more or less irritates me now. But going back and rewatching it, because the movie stuck with me, which, is not surprising. There was a lot that I remembered, and I went to rewatch it, and I actually got to appreciate it more the second time. I have since watched it several times, including just this week, since it's free on YouTube right now, and it's one of them ones that I just can't stop watching. It just always stuck with me, and I'm actually kind of glad. Granted, I have my own thoughts on the film, and I will be delving into that, but I want to talk about my appreciation of the film and delve into what I can. But I definitely think that it's worth checking out, especially if you're a wannabe filmmaker. I think it's a example of good filmmaking, so to speak, at least as far as the cinematography is concerned, the direction, the camera angles. There's a lot in this movie to appreciate, for sure. But let's go ahead and talk about the actors and their characters, shall we? Our main character, Scotty, played by the lovable and likable Jimmy Stewart, is a character that you feel sorry for. He is put in a situation where he really doesn't want to be in. And the opening sequence of this movie shows just how badly Scotty is. I mean, he's with his colleague, they're chasing down somebody. He then tries going on a rooftop, but he slides, and he's hanging on for dear life. And then, of course, his vertigo comes in, which, of course, it would. And then his colleague goes and tries to rescue him, and unfortunately is unable to do so and falls to his death. And Scotty sees it all. What's really sad about that, again, is he is indirectly responsible, and he feels badly. Everybody tells him it's not his fault, and it's not. But he feels that it is because the man did try to help him, and he didn't give him his hand, which I think that's what could have happened, why he felt this guilt complex, because the man tried reaching out to him, but he wouldn't give him his hand. And I think that's understandable, too, because you don't want to fall to your death. But seeing all of this, we can feel sorry for him and be on his side. And then he's hired by this guy who he knew in college, very, very slightly, I guess. But he's like, I need your help. I need you to follow my wife for this reason or another. And he does. The problem then, for me personally, and this review is going to be spoiler heavy, so if you do not want spoilers, I would suggest not watching this video at all. Watch the film and then come back and watch the video, please. But, in the grand scheme of things, as much as I love Jimmy Stewart, I am not crazy about his character in this film. The main reason is when he is hired to follow Gavin Elster's wife, Madeline, he becomes attached to her. He becomes almost obsessed with her. And then they begin to talk, and, he starts falling for her. And there's that big passionate moment where they both kiss and the water's behind them because they're in an ocean, I guess. And I'm thinking, okay, Scotty, she's married. Why are you making out with a married woman? Like, dude. And then later, when she tells him, I had a dream, and he's like, oh my gosh, I know where this is at. We're going to go there, and we're going to relieve you of what's going on. And he's making out with her, and he's kissing her, and he's like, I love you, Madeline. And at one point, he even says,
look, it's not fair. It's too late. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. It shouldn't have happened.
But it had to happen. We're in love. That's all that counts.
So I'm thinking to myself, why? Like, okay, I get it. You're infatuated with her, but the other bad thing is too is he's an ex-cop. He literally took his work with him. His work became personal, and that is not good either. So, and then we get the other portion, which I really think he's the most unlikable, is when he meets Judy, aka Madeline, and he changes her to be who he wants her to be, stripping away her identity. And that always drives me crazy, especially this line.
Judy, please, it can't matter to you.
If I let you change me, will it do it? Do what you tell me. Will you love me?
Yes. Yes.
So, like I said, in the grand scheme of things, he's not likable for me. Like, I mean, not the full way. Like, I could sympathize with him to a point, but then the other portions, I'm like, what? But then at the end, I don't know how I feel, because at the end of the film, he's justified in his anger, but I'm thinking, you did take away her identity too. You're not the innocent party here either. Granted, you're more innocent than Judy, but you're still not the most likable. Okay, that's enough of Jimmy Stewart. Let's go ahead and move on to Kim Novak. Kim Novak does an amazing job here playing two roles. She plays the role of Madeline, Gavin Elster's wife, as a very mousy, shy, soft-spoken, damsel in distress type character. Yet Judy, on the other hand, is the opposite end of the spectrum. She is feisty, she is loudmouth, she has no problem telling you how it is. And in the grand scheme of things, I do prefer her acting as Judy because I think it's more natural. But I do love how she plays Madeline. I think that she does an amazing job, and I especially think that this role could have been slightly hard, because not only is she playing Madeline and Judy, she's got to play Judy changing into Madeline. And that can't be easy. That's got to be somewhat confusing. And I think she did an amazing job. The downside to her character is she's indirectly responsible for a woman's death, Gavin Elster's real wife. So basically, since we're getting into her portion of the story, this is where I want to get into the actual portion of the plot that is really spoiler heavy. Here's the thing. So when we see Judy, we see how everything happened. We see that she runs up, and we see Gavin throw his wife, who he had already killed, off. And we now know she was a ploy in the plot, so to speak. And I have problems with this for multiple reasons. One, I think we got the reveal too early. I did see a review on YouTube somewhere. I can't find it, unfortunately, but someone actually said why this worked for the film, and reading it from that perspective, yes, I agreed with it. But in the grand scheme of things, I think Hitchcock really dropped the notch here. I think it would have been cool if we would have gotten more of a mysterious thing. Is Judy Madeline? Is she not Madeline? You could have had moments where it's like, no, she's definitely Madeline. But then you have other areas where it's like, no, she can't be Madeline. Do that Hitchcock thing where your brain actually has to work, and it's like, is she? Isn't she? I don't know. And then we get the reveal later, and you're like, I see now. I think that would have been a whole lot better, personally. But that's one thing. The other downside to her character is, this is why she would be unlikable, is that she agrees to be a plot in this poor woman's demise. A woman who had meant her no harm, and from the like of it, never meant anyone any harm. And yet this poor woman's life is being played as a game in order for Gavin to inherit her money. It's actually kind of pathetic. And I haven't seen anyone really delve into the wife. And I just find it interesting because, yes, we're focused on everybody else, but no one focuses on the fact that this poor woman's demise is her end. You know, no one talks about what she could have been or who she really was. Granted, in the grand scheme of things to the story, it's not important, but I feel bad for the wife. And this is also why, like I said, that Judy is not a likable character. And the fact that she gets what happens to her at the end, it's almost like, well, it is what it is. Because of the Hays Code, basically, if you did something wrong during the old days of Hollywood, you could not get away with it. So, hence why in Hitchcock's Rebecca, Laurence Olivier's character had to be changed from an actual killing to an accidental killing because you couldn't let him get away with an actual murder like he did in the book. So, in the grand scheme of things, Judy basically got what she had coming to her. I really don't like to use that kind of talk, but that's basically what's going on. Now, granted, like I said, Kim Novak does an amazing job here, but again, her character is not the most likable. But there are moments where I do feel sorry for her. Again, the portion where she has to be changed to appease Scotty is one of the most cringiest and annoying parts of the movie for me. Mostly because I feel for her, ironically. You know, I love the fact that she wants to be herself, but yet she gives in to him anyway, which also drives me nuts. Now let's move on to one of the most saddest Hitchcock characters. This one is Midge, played by Barbara, and she is one of the sweetest characters, but the sad thing with her is she's kind of pathetic. And here's what I noticed too. She's the one that called off the engagement to Scotty because they were engaged for 3 whole weeks. But she's the one that called off the engagement. And Hitchcock doesn't give you any answers, at least verbally, why. But I figured it out. It's because she knows that he doesn't love her. She loves him, but he doesn't love her. And she knew that. And putting him into a marriage with her was only going to make them both probably unhappy in the long run. So she keeps him as a friend to keep him close. But canceling the wedding or the engagement was her way of saying, okay, Scotty, I love you too much to put you in a situation where you're not going to be happy. But sadly, she's the one that's unhappy for the most part. It's almost like she's playing with jealousy, both with herself and with Madeline. She sees Madeline with him when she leaves the building, and you can tell she's sad. And yet, she goes ahead and does one of the cringiest things in the film, which is she paints herself in the portrait of Carlotta. That's one of the worst moments of the movie, and I usually end up fast forwarding that part most of the time. But that is literally the worst thing she does in the film, I believe. She's actually the most likable out of all the characters in the whole movie. Sad, but the most likable. Shout out to 2 actors that I have seen in other things, and I love seeing them on screen. First is Ellen Corby, who I first known her as Grandma from The Waltons, but I have since seen her in other classic movies. Ironically, It's a Wonderful Life and Little Women, for just to name a couple. The other one is Henry Jones, who is in the court scene after Madeline's suicide. And everyone would know him from The Bad Seed playing Leroy. I think that was kind of cool. Now let's talk about what I really love about the film. There is a lot to love. One of the things is Bernard Herrmann's soundtrack. I actually own the soundtrack on my phone, and it's one of the best pieces of score that I love to listen to. It's sweet, it's suspenseful, but there's a lot of magic in it, and it's just really, really good. Bernard Herrmann is one of my favorite composers. I think I might have mentioned this before, but I just absolutely love his music here. The other one is the costumes by Edith Head. They are so gorgeous. My favorites being the black dress that wears later on, her gray outfit that she wears, which, if I have the story correctly, she said that she did not, as in Kim Novak, said that she didn't like the gray suit because she thought it looked weird with her blonde hair. But they actually fought, as in Hitchcock and Edith Head, to have the gray suit, and they ended up winning. To me, I think it looks absolutely exquisite. The other dress that I think gets less talk about, which it's not in the film very often, is when Madeline jumps off of the bay into San Francisco Bay. It's it's a very short sequence, but I like that dress. And I just love the costumes in this movie. And even as simple as Midge's blue type sweater with the blue pencil skirt, I absolutely love that outfit. In fact, I was thinking of even recreating that in some way. The other thing that I also want to point out is the whole aesthetic to the whole film. It's 1958, for crying out loud, but yet the aesthetic is so gorgeous. The forest scenes, the colors to the forest, the lighting, the scenery, especially during the flowers moment um, where Madeline is trying to get flowers to take to Carlotta's grave, and he follows her, and there's like that foggy kind of look, but it still looks absolutely gorgeous. The aesthetic to this movie is so pleasing, and it's just absolutely wonderful. The cinematography is also really good. The shots of Madeline in the in Ernie's with the red backdrop in the back and her wearing that green cape. It's just, there's a lot of moments in this movie that is so beautiful to look at. And I don't know, I think the aesthetic is really, really pleasing in this film. So, in the meantime, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what you think of Vertigo and what reviews would you like me to cover next. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye! Have a great, wonderful day.